See if I can load up Periscope. Any questions here for you? This is a little Q&A. What's up, guys? How's everybody doing on this Friday? You are. See if I can load up. All right. How's everybody doing? Any questions? Talking about lower half. Talking about pros and cons of the lower half. You know, the key things that... What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Key things about the lower half that are pros are obviously going to be, you know, like the Kibler and Chandler study found that a 20% decrease in kinetic energy coming from the hip and trunk to the arm requires a 34% increase of the rotational velocity of the shoulder to put the same force on the hand. So that's the wear and tear issue. If we decrease kinetic energy coming up, we're going to have to overcompensate almost by double with the arm, which is going to increase wear and tear specifically over time. Also, it's going to be harder for you if you don't overcompensate to velocity-wise. So lower half is just a great foundation for a high velocity pitcher because it's going to keep you healthy. It's going to allow you to increase performance. What's up, Rosenthal? Trevor's on here. Dang, nice HD on the YouTube. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it, man. How are you? Congratulations on your awesome contract for next year, man. Really excited. It's going to be fun watching some nationals next year. Also, too, Aaron Barrett going to be up there with you. Should be in big league camp. It's going to be fun to watch that. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Doing the medicine ball drill off the King of the Hill. How do you main? How do you drive your hip? So the King of the Hill is just a great tool. It's telling you, are you generating force? Of course, you could go really light with it, or you could go really give it a lot of resistance, and then it's just going to be forcing you to get more aggressive through your back leg. And if you're timing the opening of front foot in rotation to that back leg power, and those sync up together, we talk about foot sync, meaning you're opening front foot at the same time you're driving back foot, and then you push all that power through hip rotation. So it's a timing factor, it's a linear vector factor that when you push, is it going to push force through the back hip? So if you get all that right, then you get all that push through the back hip. So if you're struggling with it, it's because you're either messing up the timing, you might be flying open early, and then back leg is collapsing because of that, or you don't have enough power, or your vectors are too high, and you know, if you do generate a lot of force, you want to jump, and you're not getting the plate to pop because the plate doesn't pop if you're pushing down. It's a more shear force. You got to push back. So, you know, it's really in the whole series that I did, the topvelocity.net/lower half series, really talking about all those things that are going off, all those parameters, timing the hips forward and down at the same rate, timing the opening of front foot, timing being able to peak the load of the back leg and get the force vector linear before the drive. All these really important things to maximizing backside power and getting to convert to hip rotation. That's the thing. If you don't get a lot of backside power through hip rotation, you can throw hard. Trevor Rosenthal is a great example of that. You can throw really hard, but you'll have a hard time if you're not putting it into hip rotation, then you don't create the sequencing. You don't create the domino effect of rotation up the body, which goes through the hip trunk, through the arm rotation, which really carries the energy well and moves it up the funnel. It just kind of pushes it up the funnel. So if you generate all that force and that hip is just stuck, then what happens is your arm doesn't get triggered. You know, the rotation of the hip doesn't pull the arm through or really trigger the trunk rotation. So then you got to try to create your own trunk rotation, and now you're herky-jerky and you're forcing things and you're overcompensating, and then it breaks down. That just leads to, breakdown. So it's tough. I think that's the lead aspects of it. That's why not a lot of guys coach the lower half, because the lower half is so difficult because of all that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be good, it's something that's done, to try to do it at an elite level, you need to understand the lower half. Fred, is lack of hip abduction usually due to tight hip abductors? Abductors. I would say tight hip abduction is due to tight adductors or the lack of range in the hip. So if you have a small capsule, you probably don't have a lot to move with, or if you have even a at the end of the femur, if it really is short in the, into the joint, then what happens is when it goes up, it just quickly, that lever pushes right in the bone. Look at the hip anatomy, and then you understand what I'm talking about. So that can affect it, but tight adductors could lead to that. I have really tight adductors, and I don't have great hip abduction. So, but several factors. I just bought the 3X Pitch and Velocity program. Awesome, man. Appreciate it. And I don't know where to start. I can throw 90, 91, but I don't know where to start. Start working out level 3 or 2. I even thought I'd feel pretty strong. No, I don't care where you are. Once you start level 1 and get through it, you really do need that base level. But since you have the program, you need to give me a call. Give me a call, and I'll walk you through it. But you need to start with Ace Pitcher Handbook level 1 and build from there. I think it's going to challenge you enough because it's really based on your maxes. If you don't have those maxes, you can talk to me. I'm going to tell you about how to start without your maxes. But once you get to your maxes, I mean, it's going to push you. And the levels are really to bring them one volume from there. But I think that's going to be enough for you for now. Lindron Reyes, level 1. The throws are so important. Yes, they are. Can you talk about position players in reference to this topic? So, yeah, any throwing, hitting sport, it needs to be a kinetic chain, lower half foundation, driving energy up the lower half. So position players, same thing. You need to be able to have good feet work. You need to know you need to get the feet under you, because if not, then you're just going to lazily and sloppy go to the upper half. You need to get the feet under you. You need to get control of your momentum. If you're a moving athlete, if you're an outfielder moving to the ball, if you're a shortstop moving to the ball, you need to get your feet under you, controlling your body, so then you can convert that and sequence that up the kinetic chain. So it's the same thing. It's just with pitchers, because we start in a static position, it's a little bit more demanding of us to generate a lot of power initially, so we have all this energy to work with. Position players can they got some help in that department. They can move, they can get a few extra steps to get some momentum going, but still they got to get the feet under them. So they got to understand their feet work. They got to learn how, once they get their feet under them, how to organize and start the throw, the swing, the hit. It's the whole thing should be built on the lower half. So to me, it's just a good, fundamental, healthy approach to baseball that baseball has preached many years in the past, doesn't seem to preach it as much anymore, and it should be always preached. It should be a driving force behind it. Unfortunately, sometimes I feel like Major League Baseball is against it. I don't know why. They don't want people to get it. Maybe because then they'll have so much talent they don't know what to do with. I don't know. I mean, baseball just for some reason fights it. I mean, look at me. I believe I'm in lawsuits because of these reasons. If I was a weighted ball guy and an arm strength guy, I don't think I'd be in these lawsuits, and I wouldn't have people to tell me to stop talking about, the MLB trying to tell me or MLBPA trying to tell me not to talk about MLB pitchers and break them down if I was probably a weighted ball and a conventional guy. So at the end of the day, it's for some reason baseball doesn't want it, but all the studies show that we have to use it, and it's hard and it works. Boy, does it work. It gives you the hundreds of testimonials that we have, 90-plus guys. It gives you healthy guys. You can build an organization where you're not worried about injury. But at the same time, too, you can't over-pitch guys or overplay guys. But it's huge. It should be the foundation. There is no cons. Yeah, that's a good question. What are the cons to the lower half? I'd say the cons are it's hard. At the end of the day, I think that's the biggest cons here in the lower half is it's hard. And because of that, we lose a ton of guys. I'm not kidding. It is a big negative for the approach. It's not easily learned or taught. So when guys come in and they're used to the conventional wisdom, they're used to these arm strength approaches, these quick fixes, hey, pick up a few miles an hour with this ball, whatever, with this distance, and they come in here and they go, hey, this is building a foundation. This is a slow-cooked process. This is, hey, you're not going to see results for a couple of months. This is, develop, build, exhausted, change, learn, break through bad habits, learn things you should have learned years ago. Like, it's a really hard place to be when you don't have a good lower half, is learning the lower half, and that's the big negative. We lose a ton of guys because of it. But at the end of the day, if you have a work ethic, if you have a real work ethic, and you really want to learn this, and you have a passion for this, there couldn't be a better advantage for you, because to be honest, the con now becomes a positive. It becomes a pro because it's difficult for you and you're willing to do it. you're going to take the time, you're going to go through the sweat, build, the sweat equity, and you're going to develop it. And now you got an advantage. All these guys that didn't want to take advantage of that, were looking for the quick fix. You turn that con into a positive, into a pro. It's very important to lift the back leg after the throw. That should be a reaction. So if I'm carrying all this energy into front foot, boom, and I hit front foot, and all that energy transfers forward, the back leg becomes a counterbalance to the trunk. So if my trunk is flying because I transferred all this explosive energy, well, what's going to prevent me from headbutting my knee or face planting in the dirt? It's the back leg. The back leg is going to balance my trunk out, Now it's a scale. You're going to put all this weight in your trunk on this side of the scale, and so you got to bring something up on the back side of the scale to balance it out. That's why the pitcher typically, a leg counters that movement. It allows us to not face plant. So therefore, it's not something to be forced. It's something that there should be a proprioception of your trunk going forward. Your body should go, hey, I don't want to eat dirt. Get the leg up, so I don't eat dirt. That's strictly how it works. And if it comes around early, if you're through into pitch release and it's coming around, you did not separate. If I drive hips through, trunk is back, and then my trunk goes forward, that leg's going to be back there longer and then come up and counterbalance. If it's shoots around early, then you didn't separate. A lot of questions here. What's up, Jake? We just had Harrison here. He just took off. I told him to go down there with you and represent some top V. Hopefully we can get out to Kansas soon. Kansas City. Are you in Missouri? I know you're in Kansas City. What are some more mobility drills for thoracic spine? I've been doing the ones with the bands. I think that's a good one with the thoracic spine. I think what else is good? I think taking the peanut, the 2 lacrosse balls, and rolling right down the spine, I think is huge. Taking the doing the foam rollers, holding the barbells with the foam rollers to really pull you back. Also, too, I like in rotation. I like bringing the drive leg across my body with my shoulders closed, getting the separation, even maybe holding a ball. Sometimes I'll put the foam roller under my hip and push my hip up. You can also YouTube a lot of that. A lot of people have some creative stuff with thoracic spine. Hey, Brent from Chuck Storm Baseball Club in KC. How's it going, Chuck? Please explain your top velocity chart board. Are you talking about the leaderboards, or are you talking about Top Velocity Club, Chuck? Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about Top Velocity Club, the leaderboards or so? With your wise approach and method, thank you. Does it matter if your dominant leg is not on the rubber? Well, it has to be on the rubber. See, what do you mean? Like kicked up on the rubber? It has to be touching the rubber. You're talking about hooking the rubber, where you pop it up on the rubber. That can help. It's going to help get you a more linear angle, but if that causes your knee to collapse, it wouldn't be good. We talk about holding torsion, keeping the leg externally rotated to keep stability, specifically as we generate force and drive. That's important. What's up, Jeff? I think he means the board on the wall behind you. Okay. So that's our leaderboard, and those measurements are mainly lifts. So go to topvelocity.club. Look at the leaderboards there. Those are more from our full evaluations, field measurements, jumping, running, stuff like that, mobility measurements. The board in the back, it's got more lifting. So it's got like our leaders and their power cleans, their back squats, their bench presses, and their med ball throws. So I think I have pictures of that on my Instagram. If you will remind me, I'll take a picture of it and shoot it to you. More of those guys are the leaderboards in this facility of what they did through their training. But Top Velocity Club is a great resource to really get more understanding of basically our evaluations and how those are. We have even research there how it's correlating to different parameters, like vertical jump had a strong correlation to ball velocity. Back leg, front leg drives had a strong correlation to ball velocity, things like that. Sidearm tips. Sidearm guys, you're pretty much just like over the top guys. You just have a different trunk position going into rotation. You get that ipsilateral position. So with the sidearm guys, they need to learn everything: drive, hip to shoulder separation. But when they go into shoulder or they go into throwing, their trunk is going to change. So basically, when you start to go into shoulder rotation, you're going to drop ipsilateral to get your sub position, or if you're, to be honest, if you're a complete side arm guy, you're just going to stay neutral from. You're not going to get contralateral. You're going to stay neutral and go into shoulder rotation, and your arm's going to be a little bit more extended. Sub guys will go ipsilateral, but everything's the same in the top velocity or 3x approach until you go into rotation. Hey, no, not on there. You can go on that one over there. Hi, I'm a pitcher. How can I improve my release point? So release point is the end result of a chain reaction of your whole body going through its delivery. So the trunk posture is going to have a lot to do with that. Trunk posture has to do with a lot of lower half stability, lower half positioning, your hip position. Then it's going to leads and to get your arm in a higher slot. So all the release point stuff is an end reaction or the end position to a chain reaction through your body. You need to learn the lower half, the trunk separation, the trunk rotation, and then the arm timing to allow that energy to funnel to your release. So if you really want to learn your arm path, you got to learn how it comes up the chain. Have you heard or experienced left-handed pitchers being more prone to pitch across right foot at landing? Taking my son to GCU this summer. Hey, awesome, excited. You know, I do see that. You do see a lot of left-handed pitchers be more rotational. You know, maybe land across. I mean, that's just an opinion. No data on that. It would be nice to have some data. I do find pitchers, in my evaluations, have more rotation on the right side. I think it's harder for left-handed pitchers to separate, and because of that, that would cause them to want to land close to get more rotation across the body because they're losing it behind the back. So that could be the factor, but once again, I'm just my guess. Is it better to break your hands over the rubber or not, and why? I don't care about timing of handbrake. All I care about is arm cock timing, because you could break your hands early or late, and sometimes it does help if you're just the guy who, when you start breaking them later, you cock later. But the point is, you could start breaking them later and then you start cocking early again, because there's so much time as you stride where your hands are just chilling out waiting for a front foot strike. So I don't really care what your hands do. They typically break as you start to move down the mound, but when they hit front foot, I want it to cock and be in a late arm cocking and front foot strike. I have a video on YouTube, The Arm Path of a High Velocity Pitcher. Check that out on YouTube. Talk about all the positions it has to be in based on what studies we're seeing. For a younger kid just learning to pitch, what's a great drill to learn how to use the lower half? The King of the Hill is a great, there's a lot of training tools that help. King of the Hill, the Velo Pros, even our or LTE 3X, LT. I put all this in the free course I recommend you to get. You get 4 videos showing you drills and tools that we use to learn the lower half and how to build the foundation. topvelocity.net/lower half and sign up for that. Hey, sorry, I got my daughter in here. I'm babysitting while I'm doing this. And of course, when I start doing stuff, she wants to terrorize the place because she knows I'm not paying attention. How important is head position in terms of being able to tilt and lead with your hip and not rush the shoulder down the mound? Head is important, but once again, you're not going to do all your fixes here. Because if I'm in an interior pelvic position, so I'm in that really bad overextended trunk, I mean, I could throw my head somewhere that is going to change things, but I can't fix this horrible posture just by throwing my head back. And more than likely, I make it worse. So it is very important. I talk about chin tucks into front foot strike. Not letting your head to get out, not letting your head to go early because that can start your upper body to go early. It is important, but you can't fix everything with the head. Hey, man, appreciate saying great content. Just started following you, man. I heard your name around the baseball industry. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Good to know we're getting around even with all the opposition. Keep it up, Brent. Thank you, man. I appreciate all the encouragement. Keep it up regarding of the circumstances you're going through. Hey, appreciate it, man. I do feel like I'm fighting for you guys, but it's worth it. I'm a skills trainer myself in South Texas. Well, good. Need more guys like you getting out. Good. Just understanding kinesiology and physics and how this works and getting away from a lot of this conventional wisdom. Do you have a preference for finishing wide or narrow? I don't know what you mean by finishing wide or narrow. Dustin Smith asks, Only a 10-year-old left-handed pitcher. How do you correct a long arm on the backside? To me, I don't really get into the long arm. Once again, we talk about the arm position and hitting the front foot strike, which is typically a flex position, and we talk about the timing of getting there. I think once you learn that, I don't really care how you get there. I don't care if you swing all around, as long as you're there and you're separated. The problem is there's usually only a few passes once you do that, and it's just kind of quick to that position. So if you teach that arm path position for the 10-year-old, and you just constantly reinforce the loading of the scap where he has to be, go to YouTube, arm path of a high velocity pitcher. I have that. You can watch it. Just get him to understand that and reinforce that in his timing of breaking his hands to that position at front foot strike, and that'll be huge. From Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah, Jake, I forgot. You guys, it's either Missouri or Kansas. So trying to get more guys down there this summer. Great stuff at Top B. Appreciate it, Jake. Tell Hector I said, hey. How do you get all the med ball drills to translate to the mound? Having trouble with that. That's a good question. So your body does really, the reason we love the med ball throws, the 2-pound med ball throws, is because your body doesn't identify that with a baseball, which is good because you can learn new habits quickly. And because the problem is you take the baseball and you're having to teach yourself, you have to override an old habit to teach yourself a new habit, which takes a lot more reps than just learning a new habit. So the med balls kind of allow us to cheat the system. Pick it up, your body doesn't know what this is, it's a new thing, and you can learn movements quicker, but you do have the challenge of transitioning it into the baseball. But it's an easier thing when your body's like, hey, I really move well with this in the same positions with this 2-pound ball. Why can't I just do that with a baseball? But sometimes guys are just, because they get very much in their comfort zones, they don't like breaking out of all those old habits of playing baseball when they're a kid and throwing with their dad. I get all that. But you got to kind of break through all that old mentality and transfer over these mechanics from your med balls. And sometimes you really got to force it by blending, meaning throw a couple med balls, then throw a couple of baseballs, and film it and see what's changing and force it not to change. So sometimes you have to really mesh and blend and blend and blend, and then it starts to release and break apart. But you're dealing with a lot of the psyche. You're dealing with a lot of years of baseball. You're dealing with a lot of your brain power on that, which it will definitely take. Paul Nader, stronger right arm with a stronger left leg. Bad combo. I wouldn't want to be too strong one way or the other. I like to be kind of bilateral on strength, and so ultimately, to me, that would be if I evaluate someone and they're really strong on one side or they're more mobile on one side or less mobile on the other side. It's, to me, they don't lift a lot. They aren't in a good lifting approach, because then on lifting you're building strength typically bilaterally a lot. I mean, it doesn't mean you just do bilateral, we do both, and you typically even out mobility, you even out strength, and so that's important to staying healthy and kind of getting away from those issues. Bren, don't write over the data, over those numbers, just do your own stuff. She's totally playing with you're trying to get my attention, aren't you? How do I get my back hip through when driving? So we were talking about that when I first started this stream. And that's the challenge of all the components of the lower half. The timing of converting back leg drive to hip rotation. That's timing the opening of front side as you drive through backside. Getting more linear out of backside before, so when you generate force, that vector of force is moving into that hip. These are really challenging components that if you don't understand and you're not trying to work on each one of them and implement them all at the right time, you're going to have a hard time. So if you haven't done it already, go to topvelocity.net/lower half. Watch the videos on how we do that. I got another video on Instagram TV on, I think, the lower half of a 100-mile-an-hour pitcher. I think I got it on YouTube too. We talk about all those parameters. You need to learn them, and you need to work on each one of those. We do this with the King of the Hills. We do it with the 3X Pitching Velocity program. So it's just something that takes time to train and develop, and that's why we talked about it. That's the only negative of the lower half, is it's really hard. There's a lot of things you have to take time to develop, and there's 100% chance that none of you have been taught it outside of Top Velocity. So that's the challenge too. How important is flexibility in the hip to shoulder separation? It's very important. Guys that don't have a lot of range, don't have a lot of thoracic rotation, don't have a lot of hip internal rotation, hip extension, they struggle to get there. And that's a high majority of Major League Baseball, or of all baseball, I wouldn't say Major League Baseball, of all baseball, because that's one thing. If you have a lot of mobility there, you can overcome so much in the velocity category. Meaning you have an advantage in velocity. So the majority of guys that typically come in here are limited in the hip mobility to get optimal hip to shoulder separation. They're limited in the trunk mobility to get optimal hip to shoulder separation. And because of that, they really, really struggle with velocity. She's doing more stuff up there, sorry, distracted me. I meant when we finish, should our shoulder legs be narrow or apart? So when we finish at pitch release, our feet should be far apart. I mean, ultimately, when we hit front foot and we go into pitch release, the back leg is still behind us, and the front leg is stabilizing and extending. So in that position, you're far apart. I mean, if that's what you're talking about. Trevor Bauer is super beta Chuck. I like it. Whatever. Chuck, how's the new lower half harness working with the guys? People love it. It's really something for, I believe, the guys to feel what it's like to get in this position. So it's one of those feel things. I'm not a big fan of feel, but it does kind of put you into that lower loaded position. And then you can practice driving out of it, and you start realizing how hard it is and how difficult it is. So there's probably no better way to take a tool, put you where, say, Chapman gets, or Kenley Jansen gets, and feel that loaded power position these elite pitchers get into. And then where you can actually practice driving out of it and kind of get some reps there. So then when you take it off, you know where to go. You know what it feels like, where you need to be. It starts blowing your mind how crazy athletic you have to be to do that. But it's just, there's no better way to get that feeling. Hey, I've been neglecting Periscope. Let's see what we got here. Do you still pitch ever so often? I do. I throw every now and then. I don't compete and pitch. I don't have enough time. What's up, DA? We got David Ardsman here, the man. Hey, buddy. Hey, Brent, Tom Deeden from Colorado, and we got Tom. Look at that. We got Tom and DA, both from Colorado. Colorado in the house. All right. We got, can you talk about position? We already did that. Can it benefit a pitcher to move around to different spots on the rubber during and at bat to create different tools, looks to a batter? It could, but it could be really hard for you to be consistent. Be careful with it. Chris Medlin used to always talk about the importance of understanding the right and left side of the rubber. He said, if you're a right-handed pitcher, the power side of the rubber is arm side, right side. If you're a finesse pitcher, the finesse side is the left side for a right-handed pitcher. Because then you can show your pitches, and you're ultimately going to move and deceive more. If you're on the right side, it's hard for the hitter to pick up, and you want to come right at him and be aggressive if you're a hard thrower. So, it's really cool how you can use both sides based on the power, the characteristics of your ball velocity, your ball spins and stuff. Chris Medlin said he'd like to get to the left side when he had that really good changeup that would back door or move in on the righty. So he would pitch all the way left side. He'd turn over that changeup and run it hard away, even from a lefty, and just let it where they could see it the whole way, but it just kept gliding off the table, and that worked for him. So I think that works, but I wouldn't know if I would want to do it all the time. I probably want to sit there for a while and get consistent with it. How do you improve your max on a power clean? Many ways to do that. Front squat, back squat, jerks. Build your front squat, build your back squat, build your posterior chain to make sure you keep it balanced, and build your jerks up. If you get your jerks up, it's going to be really helpful in that peaking that power, and also too being able to rack a lot of weight and front squat a lot of weight is going to give you the confidence to catch that weight. Hey, I told you. She's putting me to work. All right, let's see. I think that's about it, guys. I only had about 30 minutes. I'm about to get on the road. We're going to make this quick today. If you guys needed more information, wait, I got a couple more here. Pedro threw 100 miles per hour without lifting. Is it possible to overcome small size with great mechanics? Yes, you can overcome small size with great mechanics. But if you don't throw 100 miles an hour and you're Pedro's size, how are you going to throw 100 miles an hour? It's not just going to happen. He obviously was born with a lot of athleticism. You have to go build it. So if you just sit there and think that I'm just going to somehow, God's going to bless me when I don't, I'm throwing 85 to throw 100, it just doesn't work there. It's something that you have to build, and that's where the lifting comes in. He was lucky he didn't have to do that. One second. I'm a high school sophomore, 6'2", 205, sit 80, 83. What should exercises be help me to add more velo heading into next year? Everything, guys. You really need to understand it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of exercises. But the most important thing, it has to be programmed well, guys. And most guys have really average programming that isn't going to get them to enhance to an elite level. And that's why, unfortunately, people fall into using illegal performance-enhancing drugs. If you want to do this without that, legally, you have to have elite programming, what I believe, Olympic-based, because that's what Olympians are so good at, enhancing well above their genetic potential naturally. That's what you need, like we have with Top Velocity. So I would check out our programs, because that's what we do for you. How would more forward trunk tilt help get more tail on a two-seam fastball? Yes, more forward trunk tilt. David Ardsman was the best at it. He had about 30 inches from front foot strike to pitch release of forward trunk tilt. And his spin rates were insane. His ball would jump out of his hand, explode. You look like you're going to hit you in the face. The trunk really helps drive a lot of that. That's why when I did topvelocity.club, I have that research, and we looked at the correlation of trunk rotation speeds to ball, or to spin rates, and it actually had a pretty decent, it was like a moderate correlation. I'm going to do one on forward trunk tilts, front foot strike to pitch release. I just don't have any. My data is a little off on that, so I want to make sure I can get some decent data on that. But I think that's going to have a high correlation. Any tips for sidearmers? I did talk about it early in this, so go to YouTube, man, or watch this when I get off. Watch the recording. We talked about in the beginning about sidearmers. All right, guys. I think that's it. Good stuff, man. Thanks, Tucker. What's up, dude? See you in Dallas. I'm fired up. Yeah, guys, don't forget ABCA in Dallas, the biggest baseball convention. 6,000 coaches going to be there in Dallas January 3rd through 5th. Come to our booth, hanging out with Big League Edge. Pretty excited for that. Velo Pro is going to be with us. We're going to have Rich Duno with the King of the Hill with us, and we're going to have 4D Motion, and we're going to be talking baseball, showing how all this stuff works, talking lower half, talking tech, talking how do we use the tech to understand the kinetic chain and really build the lower half. So excited about that. Come out and see us. Make the trip, guys. ABC is so worth it, not just for us. Like, there's every vendor in baseball. There's tons of great education going on with all the presentations and the events. It's a pretty cool thing. And that's about it. So, guys, we'll see you next time.
I was trying something different. No, it was same. Really?